Hi, I'm Virgie Rodriguez, and welcome again to A Race of Your Own, where we discuss, we have discussions about inspiration that lead to resilience. And today's guest, you might just know her just from her title alone, Executive Director of the National Association of Latino Independent Producers, also known as NALIP. She's been a leader in the entertainment and education sectors. Over 25 years of experience promoting the professional development of Latinos in the United States. And I mean, her accolades are endless. She's been focusing on establishing strategic alliances within creative industries to facilitate access, visibility, and professional advancement at all levels. So this week's guest is Miss Diana Luna. Welcome.
Thank you, Virgie. Very happy to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. Thank you
Me too.
for taking the time, especially during Hispanic Heritage Month. That is probably one of your busiest times of the year, amongst other times of the year. So thank you.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So, tell us our viewers a little bit about your background. How did you want to get, started in entertainment? How did you happen to kind of make that connection with NALIP?
Mm-hmm. It is a very interesting journey when I look at it because I've been working for so many years with everything that has to do with arts and culture, mainly focused into higher education. Many years ago, I was running a master's degree in arts management and also developing an art business program. And all my life, I've been very passionate about the arts because my dad was an artist himself. So I've always been very close to that world. So it's always been my passion. And it was just kind of very fortunate coincidences that I ended up in higher education working for all the arts nonprofit sector, where I had incredible mentors. And through there, the passion for understanding how important it was to Latinos to be represented. And in that particular moment, it was mainly arts and culture. If you think about it, we have voids in many other different areas. But this one to me was very important into understanding why Latinos were not as represented in the performing arts, the visual arts, in dance. That's how these master's degrees got developed so that it could help leaders of nonprofits to really promote their work. So that's pretty much how it all got started. And then later, I got invited through Hola Mexico Film Festival to develop a program for emerging filmmakers. And I saw immediately the connection because it is pretty much the same challenges, but also the same opportunities. So I told actually the director of the festival, I said, okay, I have no time because I'm working, but if it's going to take me no more than 3 months developing the program and implementing, I can do that, but just this one time only. And then 8 years later,
They sucked you in. You were like, "Yep, I'm here now."
8 years
Okay.
later, I was saying, this is the very last time. 8 years later, I'm still saying this is the very last time that I'm supporting this program that is called Tomorrow's Filmmakers Today, which today is a network of about 160 filmmakers from emerging and now all in incredible careers. And it was just a way to connect them, to create a strong network, to provide the resources to enter the industry. And now it's an incredible network of professionals helping each other out. And 8 years ago is when I found out about NALIP. As I was developing this program, I really want to be embedded with all those resources for Latinos. And NALIP back then was one of those few organizations focusing on the Latino entertainment industry. So I remember going once to one of their summits. And back then, the executive director was Axel Caballero, that now he's at NALIP. And it was very funny because, over the Latino Film Institute.
Yeah.
And I saw the work that he was doing there and the community and how vibrant it was and how relevant it seemed to this event to be. So I thought, you know what, one day I'm going to have his job. This is it. That will be my job. And then a year and a half ago, they reached out to me, and when I saw it, I thought, well, this is meant to be because I called it out 8 years ago.
Yeah, you
And
manifested it. Yeah.
yes, and I think it was so strong. And I've always been so passionate about the work of creatives. I am very always energized and motivated to work with the creative mind, because I am a strong believer that the creatives are those that change the world. And without people being creative, we wouldn't have a voice as humans. And it's always, it makes me feel very humble every time I'm supporting a producer, a director, a writer, because they are the ones speaking for us. And yes, you can have the news, etc., but the feelings and the way that you see the world, it can only be expressed by those that are using those tools, from dance, paint, and in this particular film or any other thing that has to do with the creativity. So that's how NALIP came to be.
Yeah, and your involvement in it, and it's very much like I talk a lot about like purpose and finding purpose, and kind of the way in life you are in a race of your own, right? Like you're on your, you're with Hola Mexico, you're working with them, and then NALIP, this opportunity pops up, and you knew about them, you had heard about them, but the connection didn't happen, and then you're like, wow, but I love the community of it, right? And how important community is in telling our stories. And was talking to you earlier about my short film. That was one of the main reasons I did it. I wanted to start a conversation, but I also just wanted to say a perspective from one side, right? And so growing up with like a father who was a painter, he was a painter, sculptor, and that was, where was that, in Mexico?
In Mexico.
Wow.
Mexico.
And then do you feel like that really kind of, as an expression, right? A form of expression for yourself. Did you ever get into any type of arts too, or?
Interesting enough, well, growing up, every weekend, my dad will take me and my mom, well, mainly my mom, and then I was there, I guess, to an art show or a performance or to a museum, because he was so passionate about it. So every weekend, mainly on Sundays, it was a Sunday thing that he will find something so that we could be exposed, because again, he's the one that taught me that it is through arts that things change, where you become a better human, when you are exposed, when you're able to admire, when you take the time to sit and watch, to listen. And my dad liked to take me, actually, because my mom will fall asleep and she will get very bored.
Okay.
So
You're like, I'm paying attention.
Exactly, just to prove the opposite. Then I was there, sitting and paying attention and trying to learn as much as I could, because we had fun. It was very simple, and I never really understood how important it was until, again, these jobs came to me, that I thought, oh wow, I mean, this was like a lifelong learning experience.
Yeah.
And today, I've been able to professionalize what I've been surrounded all my life, that is artist. That's
Yeah, and it's interesting to me. I keep kind of like seeing you like this little girl seeing these sculptures or these paintings, but you went from like a still painting or like a still picture to a moving picture. And so there's this like kind of connection, right? Like when it comes to like you were watching still pictures to a
it is absolutely similar. The only difference within these two art forms is movement.
Yeah.
Even technology nowadays, I mean, they are going head to head, and
AI is scary.
It is mainly but I think it's mainly how humans are able to express, and the need for expression, and the aesthetics of it. So aesthetics I think it's a very interesting concept, that it changes from experience to experience or from setting to setting, but at the end, it is what the humans are able to comprehend. I mean, we're the only ones, right?
Right.
Animals can't, and sometimes actually I think they do, like spiders.
In their own way, right?
In their own way, but it's such an important concept.
Yeah, and the importance of NALIP in all of that, because I've been to so many NALIP events. I've really, the way you really support the community. I mean, you're here, so like you really, you walk the walk, you talk the talk, and you're really about it. And for anybody that doesn't know about the other things that NALIP does in kind of creating opportunities for those voices, could you expand on that?
Yeah. Also, when I found out about NALIP, I was also fascinated by the work that they have done throughout the years. This is an organization with 25 years of history behind. And it all started back in the day when we talk about the Selena movie, for example.
One of my
And Mi
favorites.
Familia, and you
Yeah.
know, with Eddie Olmos, with Moctezuma Esparza, Jerry Nava, like these incredible figures understood at that moment in time the importance of the Latino representation. And throughout the years, the entertainment has changed, and the Latino representation has had its peak and then the very lows. And this is how this organization became very important to advocate for something that should be very obvious, and that is basically inclusion. I mean, I find it so at times absurd, right? That we have to have organizations like this when we're talking about talent, we're talking about excellence amongst our creatives. So NALIP was founded within that premise to support independent producers. But throughout the years, the concept of independent producers changed, and also the reach for NALIP, understanding that it's not only the producers, but directors, writers, and beyond, and basically people in front and behind the camera. So today, NALIP continues advocating, of course, for the independent producers that I think are going to become the thing. It's the next big thing. I'm pretty sure about that. But also supporting through providing resources, connections, giving them visibility, providing incubator programs, and any other tool that will support your career, advance your career. And that's what we are waking up every morning, understanding into what are the needs of our members, but also what is the current state of the industry, and understanding what is our place there and how can we push and move forward into amplifying not only the Latino content, but people in the decision-making rooms, understanding who are those decision makers and how can we change the narrative of these very few Latinos in media. So we're working, we have a big challenge, but still.
And it is important to have organizations like this, because it is, growing up, one of the first faces I saw, like a big screen, was, in West Side Story, right? Rita Moreno, playing Anita. And, we didn't see that a lot. That was the closest I felt like there's a character on screen that looks like me. And so having this space of where you're creating a space for people to come in and say, I just want to tell my story, right? I from my perspective, is so important. And, going to dip into this one a little bit, just because we are in Los Angeles, the state of the industry, where we're at, where it's going, and the importance of independent producers, definitely Latino independent producers, but just independent producers as a whole. Can you give us like any, for people that are out there just wanting to create, right? And it's, I find it, for me, just stepping out and doing it is a big deal, right? But like, if there's any kind of insight that you would say for people that are out there trying to figure that out, right? Because there's a lot of people that I think don't know. Well, I don't know how to shoot. I've never shot anything, right? Or, nobody's gonna want to listen to my story. I think more now than ever, what you're saying is like independent producers is...
Yes. So there are many different variables to that, and it's a very long, complicated
discussion.
Yeah. But first, we need to understand that the studio system is in transformation. I think the big leaders are trying to figure out what is the next step, not only after the strikes, but also with the introduction of technology and the competition, the streaming services, services that I think that they still need to figure out how to capitalize from that. So there are many different situations that need to get resolved, and to understand content and demand, and that we're not, again, in 2020 when the pandemic and all of us sitting down, and now we have so many options, and now financially the studios are now wondering if they actually did it too much.
Right.
So yes, I do see a lot of difficulty for the creatives, from the ones that were in the writing rooms, the ones that were, like below the line, employment, etc. Everyone has been affected after the strikes. But most important is that there is this moment that everybody's waiting for. Okay, so when we're gonna start shooting,
Right.
like when is this happening?
Yeah.
And as we wait
And wait.
and
And
wait,
wait.
I think that we gotta go back into when Eddie Olmos, Moctezuma Esparza, and all those great folks decided to take ownership of their work and understand that out there are investors willing to, because the Latino audience, it's incredibly big. The numbers into our GDP and how ginormous numbers we bring into the economy, the amount of people that go into the theaters that are Latinos. So, and all these rising stars that we have right now being the hot thing, not only locally, but globally. We got to take, we got to jump in this train, right? And to get to produce, do your own work, and think about other ways of distribution, other platforms that are out there. So kind of like opening the mind into, it is not all about what the studio is going to provide or a streaming company, but it is you being ready for that next opportunity. So then, yes, having a short in hand, a script ready, or your feature ready, or just needing the finishing funds, then you're good to go. And again, I understand that financially it's incredibly hard, but I think you got to think further into, how do I even market myself as a director, as a writer, how I make myself being seen. And this is when places like NALIP or the programs that are everywhere, it is about creating a supportive community. I'm a strong believer of community. I think that the things that we achieve most likely come from the support of our family and our friends. And professionally, that could totally comes to be into, who are those that are opening the doors? How are we teaming up to demand, to work, to be there for each other? I find that it's it's a big power, and Latinos are very good at that. I think many times when I say, "Oh no, women, we don't help each other. Oh, the Latinos, we don't help each other." Stop saying that.
Right.
No.
Words have power.
Words have power.
Yeah.
And if NALIP, I want to say NALIP is not me and my staff. No, that has nothing to do with it. It's the members. And knowing that you have an organization that can connect. So therefore, utilizing those tools, because they are your tools, right? And that is the power of community, into how do we really like bring each other up. And really trying to delete these, like, oh, we're not united, or we're so different. I don't even like those kind of things. When I start to listen to them, I get irritated. Like,
yeah.
no, why don't we talk different, right?
It's too limited. It's too, you start to walk around with blinders, on your eyes, and you're like, no, we're actually a community. And I've heard this, another guest told me this stat that she said in 2060, 1 in 3 women are going to be Latinas.
Exactly.
And I was like, what? But that's right around the corner. It's not that far off,
Yes.
And so we talk about Latinos, we talk about family. All this stuff is so important, but also telling our stories. And because we don't see it for some reason, I know, like I said about my short, we don't think like, well, let me just say it from my perspective. The story has to look like this, and it has to be so pretty, and this, and it has a beautiful ending, and sometimes, no, like real life isn't that at times, right? Yeah, there's beautiful moments, but there's moments where it's just like, it's really the struggle. It's really our perspective, our voice.
I think about that, where about your voice. And I find that also so important because I have the incredible privilege to see so many projects and going to the screenings and so forth. And I think that what is the most valuable is the honesty that a creative has behind, and not necessarily being forced into a narrative of we think the others want us to be like, right? And to, oh, well, if I'm Latino, I have to write about the Latino struggle. Well, if it's your struggle and if it comes with full honesty, it comes across immediately. But if it's just in order to be part of the diversity program, it doesn't go anywhere, right? Because who do you want to watch? You connect with truth as a spectator. So I think that's as Latinos when it gets also a little bit troublesome is into how do we portray our community? How do we create this content that it shouldn't be called Latino because we're first and foremost humans, and then, but it is just good content. It's good stories.
It's just an overarching story that can reach any family. Any family can kind of assimilate to that, which is a perfect example. It wasn't a Latino film, but Crazy Rich Asians really kind of proved that. I feel like everybody has a family members all across the board, just like that, just like we saw in that film, right? So, and it did so well.
And as an spectators, which I find it also very important, you are not questioning. Is it accurate? Are they really from that particular area? Is the tradition really well portrayed? No, you're enjoying the story. The end. I sit down on my couch, not to see like who funded the movie or how many Latinos are behind or the composition. No, I just enjoy it. Yeah. And if that comes across, that's what we need. And I think the general audience is not thinking about representation most likely, but once it's presented, it's been proven over and over that it's been very welcome, right? As we talk about the Asian market now, well, it's a thing, right? So I think as Latinos, we can do exactly the same.
Yeah, and it is strength in numbers. It is a very big community. I feel like supporting, telling more of our stories, having these types of conversations. That's why I just found it so important. And I love that you said yes. And I was like, yes, yay. Because, hearing more of your voice, right, in this space and other spaces and getting out and just talking to people and saying, no, we're here for support, more than anything. Yes, tell your story. Yes, say that thing, that maybe somebody else hasn't. Let's explore that and what that looks like. So I think that's it's always fantastic. It's always great to hear that. And I was just kind of looking again through some of your credits. You talked about it a little bit before, but having this background in education. Being like such a big deal. And there's a lot of people in the Latino community that don't have that access, right? That aren't able to kind of cultivate their artistic thing, or maybe they don't know, right? So it's like, how do we encourage that for like the younger generations? How do we, because I'm even thinking growing up in New York City, it's very much a concrete jungle at the time. As a kid, I was lucky enough to go to an arts high school that was a public high school, which was LaGuardia. And I talk about that, I had to audition, I had to get in, it's a thing, but not every kid has that opportunity or has a family member or a friend that's going to support them. So it's like, how do we cultivate that, right?
Yeah, so yes, so we can talk about that in many different ways, but we have to begin from the fact of access. If we understand that Latinos in this country have very different levels of access, and some are very limited. So what happens there? It is that there are organizations, schools that support that line of work into exploring youth filmmakers.
I've heard of them, yes.
They promote the career in as filming, and I think it's fascinating. But let's say that, you're here today and maybe you were not able to attend college or the master's degree and so forth. And that should be okay. But I think that there are many different ways that you can prepare yourself in those things that you've always been afraid of learning, because those most likely are the tools that you need in order to advance professionally. I think that skills in finance are essential. Even more personal finance, understanding how do you not only as an artist will manage your personal finances and your budget, and how will you make a living from something that is so uncertain, right? You might have a project, you might not, you might get into audition, you might know. There is financial planning behind. And when you understand those concepts, and instead of being worried about asking, or I'm afraid of going to the bank, or
Right.
telling your friend, I have no idea what to do, instead being prepared and understand what are the tools that you have available, so you can actually in peace be a creative and understand that, okay, I'm going to manage throughout the year.
Yeah.
I think that's a very, very important skill to have. Also understanding into, then when you depart from the personal finance, uh, even if you are the director, the creative director, or the writer, understanding the production aspect of it and the financial aspect of production, and what is this all about? Because then you will be able to develop stories that are going to be efficient, and that most likely you will end up not losing money, right?
Right.
Which is always a goal.
Right.
I think that's super important. It is very important also to understand about entertainment law. We don't think about it, right?
At all, ever.
Ever.
It's like,
And what about rights? What
Right.
about something happening in the workplace? What if you sign a contract and you didn't read the fine print? What if a studio buys your project and then never comes out? And
Then
all,
what?
all those details that you got to be aware of. And taking the control of your creative process is taking control of all those externals that have nothing to do with the creative process.
Financial literacy is such a big one. It's such a big one because it's like, for me, I know I keep going back to the short film, but
Yeah.
it's my first kind of on my own. And I was like, I'll just put in my credit card. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't want to go raise money. You know what I mean? Which a lot of people were doing, and nothing against that. Like for some, I was just like, I just want to get it done, But then I look back on it and go, well, I probably could have, I should have raised my, probably have a community of people that would have supported this project. But then moving forward, working on bigger projects, if I'm going to step into something else, it's like if I get a huge budget, I need to know. Maybe I need to understand, how budgeting really works, and that's, it stems from personal financial literacy, and then which kind of then spills over into when you get into filmmaking like that, right?
Exactly.
Like those bigger
and
budgets.
really being able to forecast what is going to be the outcome of that project, and if there are going to be more resources coming in, if there is nothing coming in, and being very honest again about that process. Because even if you have a producer, even if you have all the different people in charge, you should be the one controlling, or at least understanding, not even controlling, but understanding what is happening. Because again, that is what I've been working for so many years into. What are those skills that artists, filmmakers might be lacking of, that is maybe not keeping us up to pace? Because yes, there are the social circumstances, but there are also the professional circumstances. And it could also come from that lack of access as well.
Yeah.
So as an organization like NALIP, it's like, how do we keep up? How do we keep our members ready? And how do we make sure that they have available the resources to gain the skills in all different aspects of a career in entertainment?
And NALIP has done a great job with that, because again, I'm always like, I can't go to every event and I can't do everything, and I'm like, you guys have so much going on. But like financial literacy is like such a big one, because it can be very overwhelming. And when you hear some of the budgets that if you want to make something, like it's overwhelming. You're like, I don't, how do we figure this out? And I think it is important to know.
Yeah,
right?
something that we have implemented lately when we have our big events, it's we bring career coaches. You sign up for your career coaching, which they're super expensive out there.
Right.
But we provide it to our members, right? And it's just as simple as, let's check on your resume. Let's check on what are those skills that are needed. Let's see where, your strengths, or what do you need to work on. I think I'm strong believer on that, having that mentorship aspect and asking questions. We also open with NALIP what we call office hours, where you can set up a Zoom call with our team, and technically you can ask anything as long as it's appropriate.
Of course, yeah.
But I don't know. I always picture it that this is a red phone, and we answer,
Hi, hello.
yes.
Right.
Hello, how can I help you? But it's Zoom.
Yeah.
But we have assist in the past year. Well, in 2023, we reached more than 500 calls.
Wow.
I don't know where we're at. This I should ask.
Probably a
this
little
year,
more,
maybe
yeah.
more. But again, it's because if we're an organization providing resources, they should be open. There is no kept secret or
gatekeeping.
no.
Yeah, the transparency is great.
It is the transparency that I think is going to help us all.
The communal mindset, helping the community, coming in. I want to just help. I just want to give back. I just want to, again, another kind of theme I go through is reaching back, right? It's once we get to that level, your executive director, you could totally be like, I'm just doing my job. Like, I just need to do this and this and this, and I'm fine, right? But you're actually doing it. You're here. You're talking. You're reaching back. You're helping. You're saying, these are the resources we have available. Come ask us questions. We'll make a Zoom call. Like, whatever works for our members. And you guys have been great at like any feedback, like, hey, can we do this or that? And I need to get into the financial literacy part of it for just myself, because I forget. I forget that that's just something I just need to learn. Learning never stops, right? So
it never stops.
And if there's a resource like NALIP, I'd like to, that it's great. It's always great to have. I always like to ask my guests, like, what for you is like most important in being in a race of your own, through your life, all the experiences you've had, your father was a sculptor, and then going to the museums, and then Hola, Mexico Film Fest, like all these things, like what to you has kind of led you through being on a race of your own?
Well, it is, I was never planning on having a life outside of my country. My family, my friends are in Mexico. And when I first left home, I literally said to my parents, I'll be right back.
And then you're like, think I'm back.
Then many circumstances in life takes you to these journeys where now you are in a context where you are a minority, and that to me was shocking to be described as a minority back then. This is 25 years ago. And this is total true story and the most stupid one, but I lived in Toronto, and they were like, well, you are a minority. And I said, no, like there's millions of people that look like me, like millions.
There's a whole country.
Yeah, whole country.
There's a whole country.
Just alone in the city.
Right.
They just look like me.
Right.
And I couldn't understand that aspect of segmenting my abilities due to
what you look like, where you come from.
Exactly, to my appearance. And then I realized that was a thing. And I thought, it can't, because I strongly believe there were so many that we have that had things in common, regardless of the color of skin, but that we all deserve a place. And as I've been looking for that myself. So it really, since the very beginning, that has been always my passion into how do we create that change and understand that is through the voice of all that we can create social justice, that we can create beauty, that we can create a strong communities. And that has really always been my passion. And I never really have looked into any other place other than understanding the importance of giving access to arts, culture, film, and becoming better human beings because we understand each other through these tools. And I really hope that I get to do this for the rest of my life in whatever capacity, if it's through NALIP, if it's through other projects, but it's been that. Of course, aside from raising my kid, which now is 24, so he's cool.
We'll always be your baby, though. We'll always be your baby.
Always in my baby and my family, you know.
course.
It's but it is into making sure that if life brought me here, that I keep on going what I love the most. That is the creative minds.
That's
Yes.
amazing. And having somebody like you kind of leading the way in that space is amazing, because you can sense the authenticity in your voice and in how you talk about it.
And it
It's
is
really-
a huge responsibility.
Yeah. You're like, no, but it's a lot. It's
Like,
a lot.
oops. What did
It's
I
a
get
lot.
myself into? No, but it's very rewarding, and again, I'm not alone within this
Right.
big project. I have an incredible team that are as passionate, and that's what I value the most. I'm telling you, we finished last summit and this year, and it was so beautiful, and
Yeah.
we were so, I mean, instead of being exhausted, which we were definitely at the end of it, but we felt energized and motivated in the work that we're doing, that just bringing people together and making sure that all these conversations happen. We were incredibly joyful about the work that we are doing, but there's a lot to do. It's a huge challenge that we have ahead, but I think I have an excellent board that is supportive. And again, the team, the members again are the ones that are building these organizations. So
Can you tell, our viewers where to go, where to go to NALIP? What should we do next? How do we know
Yes.
what's next?
So the most important piece will be to become a member. The memberships are very affordable, and you get like total return for your small investment. But it's making you part of this community where you have access to 3 main big events, and all the office hours, reduced fees or waive fees from our programs, and any other opportunities, screenings. So we have so many things.
You guys have so many. You say the 3 big events, but like there's a ton of other stuff that goes on, like
Yes,
screenings,
yes.
panels, discussions. Like you guys have a very full calendar.
We have a
so-
full calendar. We don't get bored.
No.
At all. But so that's the access to membership, and it's pretty simple. It's nalip.org. You can either go on Instagram and follow us, but going to the website, which is nalip.org, and sign up for a membership, and then you start to get all the different perks, which are pretty fun.
Yeah,
actually.
they are fun. They are
Yeah.
fun. Thank you, Deanna, so much, and thank you
Thank
for
you
the
so
work
much,
that you're
Reggie.
doing. So
Thank you.
like excited and passionate, and so committed to really to that space and opening those voices and those doors. So thank you.
Thank you.
And to the viewers, thanks again for tuning in for another episode of A Race of Your Own. Don't forget to subscribe.